We are now video casting along with podcasting, so you can hear us, you can see us, you can talk to us.
Sound like a TV show.
We will be talking about the Coaches Roundtable.
And I see half of a game here, half of a game there, because I want to get eyes on these teams that we're ranking. I am Jeff Gorringe for the Ute Conference, and this is the Extra Point. Have a couple really good guests. Oh, by the way, where's Thunder? Man, he's gone. He must be out on vacation still. It's
He
like
is
that,
on vacation.
that dude.
No,
I
he's
know
on vacation.
the fans are going to go nuts, Marcus. You're just not him.
I know. I'm trying.
Hey, but we got Zoe over there, manning the controls. So, hey, Zoe, raise your hand. Say hi. Man, she's a lot
There
cuter.
she goes.
There you go. All right. Today, we talk a lot about the Ute Conference. We talk about where we're at today. But where did we begin? Most people do not understand how this got to where it is now. So a few weeks ago, a really good friend of mine passed away. His name was Drew Tovey. And if you guys saw the Facebook or the Instagram, Jerry was the original commissioner of the Ute Conference, and he was one of the founding members. But today, I thought, man, how cool would it be to give you guys a glimpse of the information that I know that you don't know, for the most part, and bring in two of the people's sons that have been there. The Ute Conference has been part of their life for a really long time. So, my first guest over on my far left, Talley Stevens Jr. His dad, Talley Stevens Sr., was one of the founding members of this organization. Talley, thank you for being here.
Oh, it's an honor to be here.
It's we're grateful for what your dad has done.
Thank you.
And I've also got right next to me, gosh, referees, you're gonna know this face when it comes on. Jerry's kid, Drew Tovey, coached for years up at Brighton. He and Chris Kimball could never get Brighton out of their system. I migrated to Alice, but no, they stayed at Brighton, and they did a terrific job for a lot of youth in our community. But today, before we get in and start talking to them, coaches, the certification is up and running. We need you to get certified. No, you're not going on to rosters without a certification. Get certified today. Hey, we've had people do it in less than 2 hours. Now, if you're not paying attention and you're clicking through the video at 6 seconds, I'm good with that. But you're probably going to get the answers wrong. We had one gentleman answer the same question many times, dozens of times. And some questions have 2 or 3 answers. You got to get them all right. You can't just get a partial correct answer to move on. So get your certification done. Get your background check done. Very, very important. Don't wait till the last minute. Get it handled. Get it done today. So got Talley Stevens, Drew Tovey here. Let's talk about, and I'm going to open this up to Talley, a story that my dad knows. So going back to the late 70s, my dad was president up at Brighton. Really good friends with both Talley and with Jerry. And one of the stories that we had, I believe it was Jerry told me, is he was working at Stevens and Brown. Now, your dad, Talley Stevens and Jimmy Brown, started Stevens and Brown. But prior to that, your dad played college football at the University of Utah.
That's correct.
And was head football coach at BYU.
Correct.
Okay? This is prior to his stint in the athletic supply business. Now, Talley, maybe this is just lore, maybe you can. In my mind, Talley made the statement, if the University of Utah or BYU are ever going to have successful programs, we have to have a youth program that feeds kids into the high school that then can feed into the university system. And that was the making. I know they had tried a couple things with the Salt Lake Valley Football League and things like that, but that was the real start of the Ute Conference. Is that correct or incorrect? Is that just is that myth or?
Well, that is correct. I know that Dad got involved because he owned the sporting goods store, so it was natural for him to get involved in youth football, not only for what he could do for the kids and the program, but it also benefited Stevens and Brown Sporting Goods because they were going to go out and sell these teams, and it was only natural.
And so now Jerry Tovey, he's an employee of Stevens and Brown, and he's running the team sales division. Is that correct?
That's
Yes.
correct. Knowing Dad, he delegated that responsibility to Tovey so he could go on to bigger and better things. And he knew that Gerald could really run the show, and he obviously did for so many years and did a great job.
So Jerry was the founding commissioner. Talley is one of the founding members. And we invited them in today because I know Drew and his family have had many conversations over the Ute Conference. And these two still golf together. And I believe Todd even worked for you up
That's
at
correct.
Stevens and
Yeah.
Brown.
And Drew were
And I
there
did.
also.
You did?
I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did they make you do background checks back then?
No background checks then.
Oh, they should have.
I was clear by the time No, I took care of all the Ute Conference too. During
Did you
my
really?
time there, yeah. That Ute Conference was my account.
And then Stevens Brown ultimately sold out to Gart Brothers, which then became Sports Authority.
Yeah.
So, tell us, what were your fond memories? You've told me that you go back to like 6 years old.
That's correct. Dad had just, he actually got released as the head coach at BYU. Didn't have a real winning program back then, and that was pre-Lavelle Edward days. At the time, BYU had a stadium that was only on the east side of the field, and on the other side of the field was the locker rooms and the gymnasium. And so when he had to go out and recruit and everything, he had to recruit against the University of Utah, which had the full U stadium, and they were filling 30,000 fans when BYU had about 15,000 fans. And the church really wasn't behind the program as much then, and they were going through head coaches. And so he got released and rejoined Jimmy Brown at Stevens and Brown. And I remember probably 63, 64, I was probably 6 or 7 years old, going up by the University of Utah, and there was a building there, and I think it was the Boy Scouts building, and they had a meeting there for all I believe the coaches and the presidents of the Salt Lake Valley League, and I think they were discussing expanding into the Ute Conference. And of course the Ute Conference, I believe the name really came about once Jerry Tovey and his team got together to rename it from the Salt Lake Valley, because there was too many words in it. They wanted something simple, and they called it the Ute Conference.
Well, so we have a book here in the office. And this is a compilation of about 3 cases of these books. I have the original meeting minutes going back to 1966. That's awesome. Pretty incredible timeline. So it was interesting because now today where our footprint is so big, we actually have districts down in Utah County that don't want to be part of the Ute Conference because it's the Ute Conference. And, if you've looked, we've rebranded. We mostly refer to ourselves as the UC. UC Football, ucfootball.org. If you need any information, go ahead and go to our website. But I grew up in Willow Creek by the Toveys, where the Toveys moved from Highland out to Willow Creek. And your older brother Todd was my age, was a year older than me. We played ball together. And Drew, we had many conversations about Little League football with your dad and your brothers, and tell us some of the early stories that you remember about your dad and being called into a meeting with Talley.
Yeah, I asked I asked how he became the commissioner, and through all the founding fathers and that, as things got put together, Dad was just called into Talley's office down at Stevens Brown, and when my dad got in there, sat down, and Talley just looked up at him and said, "We need a commissioner for the Ute Conference, and you're going to be it." And my dad just said, "Okay, I'm in." And those early days for me, obviously, I wasn't born till '67, so
Wow, you are a pup.
I'm a youngin', and so I would have gotten involved in the Ute Conference when in '75, '76. But I'll tell you about those days. What I remember that is so different now, because we used to have to weigh in every week.
Oh,
And
no, I can go back to that.
yes,
Oh, my goodness.
I used to carry the equipment bag up on the scale because I had no chance of being an X weight.
And I lost weight every week.
Yes, 'cause some guys
in
killing
those
them.
days, you
Yep.
turned your jersey inside. If you, here was the scale. You stepped on it. If it went up, they would hold it to the top. If it didn't drop, and now you're fully padded.
Yeah.
You're in game pads. And I think when I was 11 years old, our weight limit for right now for an 11-year-old is 135. That's our X weight. But if you were 11 years old back in 1971, you had to be under 95 pounds, fully padded. And the equipment back then, I mean, you had about 7 pounds of equipment.
Yeah.
But there wasn't any of this really nice stuff. You turned your jersey inside out, took your pads off, stood on the sidelines and said, "Hey, you're not playing."
Yeah.
But then in the 80s, we changed, that rule got changed. There was early
Yes.
80s to where we now have an X player weight, and so everybody gets to play. There was another thing that happened back then. If you were a big kid, you had to move up to the next highest division if you wanted to play. So literally, a 10-year-old could be playing with 14-year-olds.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Well, not to mention going week to week, those kids trying to. I mean, well, if you were bigger, so you were always watching your weight week to week, and I mean, the kids were getting sick.
Drew, I was born at 175, and the weight limit was only 95.
Yeah.
I'd love to get back to 175.
Yeah.
But the point being is, Talley, you played in the Ute Conference too.
That's right. Started when I was 10, and of course it was the Salt Lake Valley Conference at that time. And then the next year it became the Ute Conference. The one thing that always bothered me was that the uniforms didn't match the high schools. And Skyline was gold and blue, but yet we had blue and red uniforms. And then my junior
Sounds
year,
like today we had supply chain issues.
But I remember Olympus was gold, and their colors are green, and East was wearing blue. So it was nice to see when Gerald got more involved down the road. They coordinated the colors to the high school colors.
I had forgotten that.
Yeah.
My first year, I started at Granger, and we played West. They had Gibbons and Reed Asphalt Company on their jersey. They were
right?
black and gold with a red helmet. Now, black and gold is not black and red as their colors.
Right.
But yeah, I had forgotten that. And
then they had Judge. Judge was part of the organization at the time, and I believe they still do have a league.
Judge does not have a league any longer.
Okay. But
Really?
they went by
Yeah.
the parishes, and anybody in the Salt Lake Valley that was Catholic and wanted to play on the Judge team, they could play on the Judge
We have
team.
a Juan Diego district now, which is the exact same thing.
And then
Because of
eventually
population.
Yeah.
that was changed, and they were called Central City. And I remember as a little kid, we'd go, we got to play Central City, and they're going to have knives in their pockets, and we were scared that we were going to play with the ruffians, which was quite interesting.
No,
As a little kid.
I remember playing against two teams that are no longer here also. I remember playing against South,
Yeah.
and I remember playing against Granite. And so both of those, they're no longer with the Ute Conference. In fact, there's going to be others as the Valley changes, as we continue to progress forward. There's schools that may or may not be there. In fact, this year, Jordan was our 14th district to come into the Ute Conference. We don't have a Jordan district any longer either.
Really?
Yeah, Jordan is combined with Alta.
Okay.
And we have about 50 to 60 players per year that actually will go to Jordan High School that play under the Alta umbrella because there just wasn't enough
Yeah, I didn't
kids
realize
to
they shrunk
fill-
that much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did.
Interesting.
And so your dad gets called into an office. Next thing he's commissioner. My first knowledge of Jerry Tovey was at Murray Park. It was Ken Price Field over here. And Todd was actually playing that night against Murray under the lights.
Was he with Highland at the time?
He was with
Yep,
Highland.
Okay.
And we saw the lights on, and we were just athletic rats. We'd see a game and we'd stop
Right.
and watch it. And my dad says, "Oh, that's Jerry Tovey over there." And then he also said, "Oh, and that's Talley Stevens down there." And that was and I had to be, because I don't know if that was my first year. That had to be like 70 or 71. And so that's when I got introduced to your parents or your fathers because that happened. So today, what would your dads think? Because your dad just recently passed, and
Yes.
yours passed a few years
Yes.
ago. But, we had one young man drafted in the NFL this year. We had 6 last year. We had 24 on rosters last year.
That's awesome.
Who would have thought out of this organization that started way back when would grow to what we are today? What would your dad say?
Well, first of all, I think he'd be very proud, and he'd see this studio that we're doing this in and just go, "This is unbelievable." He passed away in '95, so it's been 25 years, and he hasn't seen any of this, and he'd just be.
And maybe he has.
Yeah.
Maybe he's been watching over our
But I have
shoulders.
to tell you, what you guys have done, and I look in the past, there are so many moving parts. This is like a business with 5,000 employees, because you've got how many kids in this league?
We have last year we had 7,300.
Woo. Yeah.
We played 185 football games a Saturday, and we had 374 football teams.
Yeah. So when I say moving parts, think of the legal issues, just transportation, scheduling. It's just unbelievable what these people do, and you guys should really be recognized more than you are for what you've done with this conference.
There's nothing like it. It is fun, but more than that, throw that all away. Look at the lessons that you learned, that I learned, that my kids learned from playing the great game of football. Look at the life lessons. Look at the things that teach. There are things that are taught on the grass when you get knocked down that are not allowed in school any longer.
Yeah.
What a fabulous game.
Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you to you two for your fathers, because it's a privilege and an honor to do what we do for so many kids. Because I tell everybody, if I got kids in my colors, and I don't care what colors they are, they're not in somebody else's colors doing something else they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
And that's what this program is about. Keeping kids moving forward, giving them hope, giving them ideals. And now with this, we're hopefully in a position to give them a few role models that have gone on to D1, to the pros, that are good, solid kids that all started right here at 7 years old in the Scout Division. So thank you. Drew?
Yes, thank you. I was going to tell you when my dad, it was 4 years ago in my last year coaching, came to a game, and he was just beaming. He was so impressed with how large the park was crowded, all the games going on, the kids. He was very proud.
Thank you both. Thank you for sharing a few moments with us. And like I said, this was done by a former treasurer, Marilyn Fratto. And Vicki and I have decided this year we are going to update this.
Because this goes till what, about 96?
96.
Yeah.
We're going to update it with as much as we can. There's going to be a few holes in there that we can't find information from, but we're going to do our best to get
That's
this
awesome.
update
Yeah,
because
that's
this
great.
was a cool document.
Yeah, it's very neat.
All right, coaches, get certified. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Vimeo, YouTube. We're everywhere. All right, do you want to say we're out of here? We're out of here.
Good job, Zoe.
Why isn't it?
This conversation is now over.